Draw Stuff with Roger. Hey guys, how are you doing today? Today we are going to be making a cat in Toonsquid. We got our layers over here. We haven't started any yet, so see, there's nothing there yet. So we're going to start with the dynamic brush. It's one that I enjoy, and as you can see, my AirPods are connected. So I'm going to just, basically the head outline is almost like a square with a triangle on the one side. And then I'm going to make some kind of bristles for the side of the cat, and then I'm going to put the other triangle at the back. And that's how I do cats' heads. And I'm going to put the nose on the side with the ear behind it. So it's kind of like the head is turned that way a little bit. And my nose is kind of looks like a chunky T. And the mouth is pretty much a W. And my eyes are almost like upside down U's with little caps on them. And this is kind of just how I like to do my eyes. So my ears are like that, but then I got to get rid of that one line right there. So I'm going to adjust the size and get rid of that line because the ear is part of the body. And just do a little cleanup here and get things looking the way I want them. Give them some whiskers. Some little dots there. We don't get too serious about where I place everything, just because we're doing this just for fun, so we don't want to get too serious about it. So I'm going to make that picture smaller so that I can work on the rest of it a little bit. I'm going to give it some color, and we'll be able to see it a lot better once it's colored. I know for a second there it kind of went out of focus. My camera did not want to focus on that. So hopefully once it's colored, now it should be nicely in focus when I bring it to the back. So I'm just using the bucket fill tool. And at the top you can see the settings and for the bucket tool, and that's about where I usually end up having to have it. And I don't have the feathering on the end, generally. And I'm going to put little dots in the eyes once I fill the eyes. And I'm going to put some pink in the ear. And I'm going to do I always like to put these little dots. It just makes the eyes kind of look alive and give them some shade on the nose. So that's a pretty cool little cat head. That looks a lot like ones from the book series I did called Nana's Crazy Cats. I drew a lot of cats for that series. So I kind of came up with some techniques on how to make them nicely. And as you can see here, I'm going to label everything. In some of my other videos, I did not do that. So I'm going to try and stay on top of that for you guys, just so you can see how it goes. And it makes everything cleaner. If you're doing a bigger project with, let's say, 20 layers and you don't have things labeled, it gets complicated really quickly. So I like to label them if I can, especially if I'm doing a bigger project. This isn't going to be a huge project, but it's not going to hurt to label them. So I'm going to do the little scruff, and it's the shape is almost like a big upside down U with at first. You'll see I'm going to do it again. And then I'm going to do it again because I didn't like it. So first I'm going to make the upside down U like that. And then I'm going to put the little, I don't know what we call that, the little ball for the butt at the back there. And then I'm going to make him so he's got legs. And then I'm going to color it in and see how I like it. So I do the long tap there to kind of catch the color that I want. And then I'm going to change the color for the tummy because I like to have that contrast there. It just makes everything look a little bit nicer. And I'm going to add a different layer here. And I'm going to make sure that layer's on the bottom because I want the tail to be behind the body. So the head's on the top, and then the body, and then the tail. So everything kind of moves in that direction, and it makes it so that the end of the tail is hidden behind the body, so that it makes it look more realistic, essentially. And I'm going to give him a big old cat tail because sometimes that's fun, and I really like cats with really puffy tails. So you can use your own preference. And really, you can draw a monkey this way, you can draw a bunny this way, and pretty much any kind of animal with this kind of structure if you want to just make a simple animation. And you can get more and more complex. I just went into the face here and did some extra squiggles just to make it look a little extra, just a little, give it a little more life, give it a little more funky hairdo, pretty much, and a chin, because cats always look good when they got a chin. And sometimes I would change the color of the chin or even the cheeks or just the little area under the mouth. This little cat, I enjoyed it. So as you can see, I'm doing 24 frames a second, and I'm going to rename this layer to cat. So then I know what's on the layer. And the background here, I forgot whether you could change the color on the background this way. And I was like, yeah, maybe. No. So if you want to change the color on the background, it's pretty simple to just add a different layer. So I'm going to take that layer and I'm just going to add a color. So I'll fill it with the paint tool. And then you notice I got a red eye there, which I'll deal with after. So I'm just going to add some shading in. So I'm going to go to the medium airbrush and make it really big and kind of lower the opacity. The opacity is just kind of how solid the color is. If it's low opacity, it's more see-through. So I add some shade on the bottom, and then I'm thinking about what else I want to add. And then I'm just going to add some lightness along the top. And I'm going to mix it in. So the little finger is the smudgy tool. So you can kind of smudge things and colors together. It really helps when you're doing shading and when you're doing lighting effects. So we're going to go back here to this layer, and we're going to fix that eyeball because we don't want that eyeball to remain red. It'd be kind of interesting to have a cat with one red eye, but for today, we're going to give them both good eyes. So now I'm just going to stretch this out, and you can stretch it out as far as you want. Sometimes I'll go through, which I should always do, is go through and pin where you want the tail and the head to move. When I do it the way I'm doing it now, it's a little trickier, but I'm going to show you something here, and you make sure you click that off every time. So if you click that little diamond button, you're making some keyframes. So I'm going to get everything highlighted. So just like that. And I'm going to kind of move it where I want. You see that little keyframe popped up. And then I'm going to go to the first frame and I'm going to move them off this frame. And then if you do it right, you'll see these little dots appear. You see the little dots there? So every one of those will be a frame. And it does the in-between and makes it look really smooth. So if you can do a lot of your motions like that, you can make some nice smooth animations. Now I'm just adjusting where I want everything to be at the beginning here and kind of how I want it to look. So I'm just doing some quick adjustments, and then that's how I kind of want everything to pop up. Sometimes you're clicking on dots because you forget which one's the one that moves it around. So I'm going to go to the next frame here. No, I'm going to make the background all the way because that really helps you make it look right. I'm going to put it up to about 20 to 24 frames because at 24 frames is 1 second. And we're not going to mess with this transformation layer stuff today. That's going to be another time. So we're just going to do some simple kind of frame by frame style animation. So I'm going to cut it at every about third frame. Sometimes I do it on 2s, sometimes on 3s. This is a pretty simple animation, so we're not going to get too carried away. And we're going to move this little dot here because that is kind of our control point, kind of like the hinge on a door. So wherever you put that, the picture is going to rotate around that point. So now the picture rotates around the neck, and the tail hopefully rotates around the bottom of the tail. And sometimes when you don't do that at the beginning, you got to really go through and kind of repeatedly do that on each frame. and that doesn't hurt. It's not really hard to do. So I'm just going to go through and make the tail move a little bit and make the head move a little bit as I go. So I'm going to create some different frames, and I'm going to move. And sometimes when you move it, you have to move the whole, like the head especially. Sometimes you have to move it just a little bit. Sometimes moving it up and down can make some nice dynamic movement as well. And by dynamic, I just mean kind of loud movement. It's kind of when people bob their head up and down, their eyes move. And eyes get tracked a lot. We all track eyes naturally, so it just kind of adds more movement to everything. So we're going to go in here and do a little bit of, so the great thing about this Toonsquid is you can go to each of these layers and you can change something. So here I want to make a blink happen. So I'm going to make sure I'm on the head level, and I'm going to make sure my opacity is right, and I got the right brush, because for a minute there I had the big airbrush, and that wasn't going to do me justice here. So we're going to go in and just kind of darken the spots where the eyelids would be. And it doesn't have to be super perfect, because it's only on the frame for like a millisecond. And if you were doing this in an animation you wanted to put online as a like part of a portfolio or something, you would really spend a lot of time on each of these things, and you would add light and you would add a lot of stuff. But for our purposes here, we're learning how to do it, and we're just having some fun. And you get more and more complex as you go, but sometimes there's no need to. Sometimes you just gotta make animation and make art for fun. And really at the heart of it, making things look cool is just an interesting pastime. So I'm going to check it out now. And I put the little circle with the two arrows on, so it cycles through. So we're looking, that looks pretty cool, but it's going a little fast. So I'm going to try and change the frame rate here. But then I forgot, you got to pause it before you change the frame rate. Most of the time you have to pause it. Sometimes you can get away with doing it while it's running, but here I'm like, wait a minute, something's not working correctly. So we're going to pause it. And then it changes. And then I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, that's way too slow. So we gotta speed it back up and try and find that happy medium where it looks good. And I'm pretty happy with that. Now you can keep going and make all different kind of movements and animations this same way. Every kind of animation is done pretty much this way that you see online. It's all frame by frame, or it's called interpolated, when you make the little keyframes and the computer does the math for you. So it's pretty neat that you can get an app like this and spend $10 and learn how to animate something simple and fun, and it'd be good for just using for fun or showing your friends and family. So I hope you guys have yourselves a great day. And start animating. Start having some fun with moving pictures. And remember, in the beginning, it doesn't matter what it looks like. It just matters that you're learning, because that's the important part. So we're going to make this big here so that we can get a real good view of it. And you'll have to let me know how yours turn out in the comments. All right. Thank you, and have a great day.